Jr. and today I actually am doing more of a request video, excuse me, of a novelty item, and this was the image that I received from a fellow YouTuber of how to create one of these novelty items, and all it is just having an outlet and a switch that turns off a bulb, um, basically inside of a junction box. So, and from what the YouTuber told me was that they also had USB ports on the side. Now, what I'm doing today is basically just showing you how to make it. It may not look as aesthetically pleasing, and I did get the wrong faceplate, but at least I can show you how to wire it and uh, you know what size box you'll need and all that good stuff. So um, so let's get started. So this is what we're going after, and so just excuse me for any uh, discrepancies, and I'm not gonna have it look, you know, as nice as this looks, but I am gonna at least show you how to put everything together. So ignore everything to my left for right now. So um, first thing we're going to need is a cord, and so you can get a cord from anywhere, from a lamp, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. And you would just, so something that you're obviously not using, and you would cut that cord at the base. Now you can use just the regular AC adapter like this with no ground. Since I am putting in an outlet and a switch, would I would suggest getting one that has a ground on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to toss this guy to the side, and we're going to use this guy, even though this ground isn't showing. We're still just going to basically pretend that it's there. So, and this is what the other end would look like. You would have the two sides, and you would have the ground wire as well. So now what I've done already is this is the box. So it's a 4-inch junction box basically, and each one of these holes, this is 3/8, this is 3/8, this is 3/8 right here, but if you pop out the entire circle, it's half an inch. So I would suggest, or I'm sorry, this is 3/4, this is 3/4, and then if you pop out this entire thing, this is an inch. So, and when I came across it, I was going to go back to Home Depot and grab something else, because what I got was, and like I said, this isn't how I would want it to look, but this is just an idea. I actually was using all I had was a sawzall. I didn't have a drill with me to drill, that perfect circle that I needed. So it was kind of interesting. But like I said, this is just for the setup. So when the box is like this, you can pop that out right away, and then find the right. So you would have your drill, and then you would have your bit to the drill, however big that this top socket needed to be, and you would just drill, as long, make sure it can drill. Obviously, it'll drill through the metal, and then just make sure it's like a perfect, make sure it's just a perfect circle. So this was just so I could just facilitate it in there, and that was it. So that was all I did. I punched out the hole, and I started cutting with the sawzall and had some fun. So I have some discrepancies up here, but like I said, this is just to show you how it would work for this novelty item. So, and this is a weatherproof socket, and that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be rubber insulated all the way through, so easy to take out the bulb and all that good stuff. And so that's really the only part that I have in right now is the actual weatherproof socket. So like I said, it's well insulated. What we would do from there, you would have one of these punch holes here, and just get your flathead and hit it with the back of your hand or the back of a hammer, pop it out, twist it out like you would with like the tap of a soda can. And from there, what I did is I have this Romex connector right here. So And so I fed the wires through the Romex connector, and now I'm going to run the wires through this back of the junction box and get this guy back in there. So, and from there we have the wires coming out, we have our outlet, we have our switch, and we have our faceplate. And of course I got the faceplate for the GFI, not for the regular outlets, but what I'm going to do is just, basically what I did was just made it fit. So as you can see, these ends right here, I cut off, and that was it. So, which turned out to be this, and when I pop it into this faceplate, it'll still, I can shove it in there, but you know, it's not, obviously some of it's showing, but you want to get a faceplate where there's that divider right there if you're using this and not the GFI. So, and you don't need the GFI, you can just use a regular 15 amp outlet. So, but anyway, so let's get into wiring this bad boy up. So what we want is, we want the switch independent of the outlet. So here's our power feed coming in, and you can use either one, that's fine, as the hot or the neutral for right now. So, and I just got them down to, and the only thing that kind of doesn't suck, but is that these are a little bit more threaded. So these aren't as solid as, like, say, like these ones that are in these nylon cases, like that are in the Romex wires. But so I cut off the ends, and I would still say cut them off anyway. Typically, you don't even need them. You don't even need them. And with that, I just used just the lineman's pliers. You can either like swing it back and forth, or you can just get the lineman's and cut it right there, and that's it, and you're good to go. So what we want to do is we want to get the hot wire going in first, and make sure that this wire is unplugged before you do anything, obviously. So safety first. So here's our feed. So this is going to be our hot wire, and like I said, it's threaded, but we're going to work with it. And the gold side is always the hot side, and we're going to start at the bottom. And I don't really have too much to play with here, so I'm going to see if I can finagle this down at all to get some more leeway, and then if I need to, I can cut it. So this is just, if I can. So right now I'm just using, I don't have those the other wire strippers, the other wire cutters, so I'm trying to use these guys the best I can to strip this guy off, so I have a little bit more room. And that's probably about enough. It might be too much, but that's okay. So what we want to do is we want for regular wiring, this is obviously a little bit more loose, we're still going to make a loop as best we can, have all the wires as tightly so that it is basically one wire. And from there, we don't need the pliers yet to make a loop for that. So we're just going to go into the bottom part right there, and go past my little perfectionism here and just get it in there. And so I'm going to flip this over and just make sure that this wire is totally underneath this screw right there. And then get this, tighten down the screw. You always want the loop, the screw to be going with the way the loop is going. So, and that's what we're doing right now. So we have our first feed coming in, which is awesome. So, and then we have on the other side would be our neutral. So the same thing with the other side. Yeah, this guy a little funky too, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do real quick, is I'm going to cut this off, strip it, and then loop it around here, and then I'll come right back. So I cut off that part and then just stripped it off, and same thing, we're going to make a loop in the way in which we're going to put we're going to loop it the way that we're going to screw it. So this is going to go into there. The loop might even be too long, because you really don't want anything exposed regardless. I mean, we are going to put electrical tape over it, but and always want to try and make it nice and tight, and it's a little bit not tougher, but just making sure that everything's in there, because it is threaded. So, and from there we're going to do our best here. So like that, I want to do my best to stay under there. And we're getting there. So now we have our hot and our neutral from the power supply going into this outlet. So so if I were to plug the other end of that cord in, this outlet would work perfectly fine. So, and so from here, what I'm going to do is also connect the ground, and the same thing with the ground is going to go right here, looped and kind of tucked in there if we can. So the tools that I've really needed here would be a flathead and a Phillips head screwdriver, a pair of lineman's pliers. If you don't, just the simple wire cutters are fine. So, and the only reason I say the Phillips head is because it's just easier to tighten these guys when it's the Phillips head. See, like that, I want underneath. I want that ground to be underneath this screw as much as possible. So, like I said, with these threaded wires from that different kind of, from not the Romex, you know, it's just a little bit more fun. So this guy would be totally efficient and would absolutely work right now if we were to just go from there. The other thing you need would be, now you would need your jumper. So this is just a little nylon guy that's actually inside of Romex wires. So, and so as you can see, these wires are a little bit more, this wire is not threaded, it's solid. So we go back to the gold. I've already looped this one, and if I can get her in there. I was playing with this a little bit earlier, so, and then we want to try and make sure that that's also totally under there as much as we can, even though it's a little bit, there we go. Alright. So this is now our other hot feed. So this is going to go to the switch. So this outlet is going to power the switch. The switch right here, on, off, going to the bottom portion of this guy right here. Of this, and this is just a single pole switch. So you need an outlet, a single pole switch, and some, if you have any of these like nylon wires hanging around, they're definitely good to have. So, especially in this case, because we have a limited amount of space inside of this 4-inch junction box. So, if I can get that. Alright, so now the outlet would work completely fine, and then what we would do is connect this, the black part of the socket to the top part of this switch. So the only thing that is running off of the switch is the outlet. And again, this is threaded, and this is where I would maybe tighten it a little bit so it's more of one wire instead of 10. So, and I'm doing my best here with what I got. And this was just how it came. I didn't do anything extra with this. Same thing. You want to try and loop that guy in there, and then tuck those wires under there as much as possible, and then tighten it. You know what? I'm just going to use the Phillips head just to tighten this one. If I can get it going. Or I'll just rip it out. So hopefully this will stay in. This guy's a little bit more thick than the other one, but as long as I can get the majority of it on this without it moving, that would be fantastic. So now this is running up to the bulb, and we just need the neutral to go to the other side of this outlet. So same thing, I didn't do anything with this, and we're going to put that into, so we're going to be turning this way, so if we can get as much of a loop as possible to go into that top silver screw of the outlet. And don't want any of these sides touching either. So back to Phillips. See if we can tuck this guy in, and back to flathead, excuse me. And like I said, make sure everything is unplugged. Make sure that other side of that feed is unplugged while you're doing this. So now the last thing I would do, now this does have a ground, in the junction box, so I did put a ground screw in there. So this is just how I would do it. I don't need it super long, so I'm just going to cut and give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm just going to use this as my ground. Obviously you would prefer to have it green, but as long once it's set up, you're pretty much never going to open this thing again. So, this is 14 or 16. I want to say 16. Yeah. But I think it's 14. 14. So I just go like that. I get what I need. That can come right off. And I'm just making sure that I do have enough room here to make my loop, and then tighten it on to the screw, and then onto the box. So that way everything is grounded. And that's just if this is something that you're going to give to somebody, or even for yourself, just in case if there's um, anything that was open, you know, you reduce the risk of shock for them, so it would pass through and go back through the ground instead of going through a loved one. And this is all you do, is you just grab the tip as high up as you can, and then just turn it just like that to become a loop. You can go a little bit lower. I think I went too high. So, and so this is our ground. That's it. So I had a green wire over here, but it's opened up. So I just said screw it. I'm just going to use this one. And same deal. I'm going to make her a little bit tighter, and I'm going to get her around here, and tighten it on the box. Yeah, see, these ones are a little bit easier. Same thing with the switch. The switch is going to go. So just pretend that this is the color green, which it should be, but it's not. But it's okay. And we're going to make sure that that loop is nice and tight. So as long as we can get and part of this project they had it painted as well, and I would say if you were going to do that, then I would obviously paint it beforehand. So just spray paint the outside of the box and the outside of the faceplate first, and then let it dry. So you could use you could go right on it with a semi-gloss, it would be fine, but you know, maybe try using the base spray paint first and then going from there. So now what we have is everything set up. So this socket you don't have to use. You can use any socket you want. So for instance, I had one laying around that I was thinking about using, and it was this guy right here, and I was going to have it just kind of up, but like I said, I like the rubber insulation better. So what we're going to do is plug this guy in and make sure all our connections are established if this guy wants to screw in. So we have this off right now, and everything else should work as soon as once I plug this in, we should be able to see this light up, or I can just use a multimeter. Remember, never touch any of these wires while this is on. You do not want to touch the hot and the neutral wire at the same time, because then you complete the series, and then you get you get a little bit of a shock. Even though there's a ground, you'll still get a little bit of a shock. So I'm going to plug this in over here, and let's see how this setup worked. So I'm going to turn this on. I have power over here, And so that power is, so our switch is off, our switch is on. So now we have that. And like I said, this switch is independent of the outlet. So the outlet is still running whether the switch is on or off. So outlet works, switch works, outlet is on regardless if the switch is on or off. And now I'm going to go back and unplug this. Alright, so now we're safe to touch all the wires that we need to. And from here, what I would do is what I'm going to do is make sure everything is taped up. So I'm going to tape around, and like I said, you usually see those pointy edges on it, and like I said, you can just rip them off or cut them off, whatever, and it actually makes it easier. And these are the screws that were on it, and I just took them out. And so I'm just going to wrap around where the wires are, and none of them are connecting. And if by chance you had to open this up again, I mean, all you'd have to do is unplug it from the feed and you'd be fine. But regardless, this is just a nice, it's just a nice habit to form, nice safety habit to form when doing any sort of electrical work in general, whether it's just tinkering or whether it's, you know, something a little bit more powerful, you know, something you're doing with your house or so forth. So everything here, that's all taped, and the tape with the right, even with this faceplate, won't show. We do the same thing over here, hoping that I did tighten everything as best as I could. And so I'm even taping over the ground, it doesn't matter. So I'm taping across the whole thing, making sure nothing is exposed, nothing is hitting the box or anything like that. So, and you can actually find these plastic junction boxes too that are the 4-foot ones. So, let's see. Everything looks pretty good. I'm just playing it safe here because we are still messing around with 120 volts AC. So don't want to play too much. Still don't want to play around with that. So we want this to be a nice item for somebody to have that they're not going to worry about getting killed. Not killed, but you know, getting shocked while using it for whatever. So it would be a nice little gift for somebody. That's all tightened. Same thing. Even though everything is okay, I still have a little bit of wire exposed. So I'm playing it safe, you know. I'm playing the tape game right now, which is fine. So we have our setup right now. I can take the bulb out. And like I said, just get the right size bit that you need for your drill to just go right through for the exact size that you need, and that's it. So right now we're going to work with the faceplate. Like I said, this is a GFI faceplate, so that's why it doesn't have this center piece here, but it'll still do what I need it to do. So I can actually squeeze these guys through. Just making sure that it does. I guess it does, yeah. And then you put the light switch through. And once the light switch is on, you'll be able to see the holes. And like I said, I'm just going to use the screws that were actually on the light switch and the outlet to begin with. So as long as I can get, as long as that's lined up and I can see those holes, I'm good to go. Just making sure I got the right one. Feels like the right one. There's two holes in each one, but it should line up pretty evenly. So with this, I'm just going to tighten the switch in to the faceplate, and then I'm going to tighten, so just the bottom part, bring it up to the faceplate. There we go. Like I said, you can find a nice cord too. I'm using an old, I'm just using an old cord, and this is just merely for the setup, and that's it. And just tighten until it's snug. You don't want to tear at it too much. And from there, even though it looks like there is no, from the back here, let's see, like that screw won't go through like it went through on the light switch. So that would mean that we need a washer on the back. So I had the other washer somewhere around here. Maybe it fell, maybe I did something with it, I don't know. But regardless, you would put the washer on the back of this, and then just hold it while you tighten it. And just go like that. So I'm still holding it as it's getting closer to the back of the faceplate. And then just waiting here. And now I'm just kind of pushing against the washer until that gets tight. So I'm really close here. I'm really up against that washer. And if I could find the other washer, that would be great, because I know it's here somewhere. So let me stop this, find the other washer, and then we'll continue. So just to review here real quick, we have what was once a cord to a fan, and like I said, which would be grounded. So make sure that this is grounded. I don't know why that part got ripped out, but anyway, this is basically our feed. The power is running to the outlet first. So remember, so either way, just put the one cord onto the bottom of the, either way it doesn't matter, but put it on the bottom of the one, on the bottom of the bronze, and then the other on the bottom of the silver. From there, the top part of the outlet, you need a little jumper to go to the bottom of the switch, and then you have the wire, the black wire going to the socket, and then you have the white wire returning to the the top silver part of the outlet, and that's it. So that's how you would set it up. And then, like I said, I got the other washer on the back of here. So in here, if you can see, this guy needed a washer. This one didn't, because the screw was the perfect size for it. But this guy needed a washer. So, and now we're just gonna finagle these wires in there. So, and just hope that nothing pops out. That's what's nice about the copper wiring, is even just in general, is you can really adjust it to how you see fit. And as long as everything is hooked up properly, you know, taped well, and nothing else, none of the wires are touching each other, you're typically in a good place of whatever you do with the wires, whether you bend them or whatever the case may be. So, let's see here. I have to get over a little bit, and since I have that nylon wire in there, that's a little bit, I have to bend that a little bit, and I'm getting metal in my fingers. So let's bend this guy a little bit so that these corners line up so we can screw it in. So, might be a little tight at first, but that's okay. And did I take those other screws? I think I did. So I need the 2 screws that came with the junction, with the faceplate, or with the junction box here. Like I said, this is a pretty, I would say get a relatively deep junction box as well, so you have more room to play with. So we're tightening down the faceplate onto the junction box. Okay. And then also tightens down the wires in there as well. Let's see if we can scooch that guy. And we're going to do the same thing in this left corner, bottom left-hand corner. Should go right in. So this thing's tight and no one's getting in there. So we have our cord again. We have everything set up. That's how it would look, except, like I said, you need the faceplate that has the part going across like that, unless you really want to use a GFI. So, but the GFIs are a lot thicker too. So I would just say just get a regular guy, and they're not that expensive. Just get a regular outlet. So, and then this I would have, you know, sitting snug at the top, if not, you know, tight, just to where it's, you know, flush with the top. Obviously, like I said, I didn't have my drill, so my cutting expertise are not that we're not that efficient with the metal sawzall blade. But like I said, let's just get her working. So I'm gonna go and plug her back in and make sure nothing blows up. So plugged in, lights on, and lights off. Okay, lights on, lights off. Everything I'm touching is totally fine. Everything is live and fine. There's nothing in here that I'm going to be susceptible to getting shocked or anything like that. So, and as you can see, that light is on as well. So the outlet is working perfectly. Outlet's working, light switch is working, good to go. So this was the initial design. You can have you can switch the faceplate around however you want. It doesn't matter. Like I said, get the faceplate where there's going to be a divider here, where the outlets just come out, and that's it. Spray paint this beforehand. So just spray paint, obviously the front of the faceplate and the outside of the actual junction box. I would say, just to be safe, ground everything, make sure everything's taped up, make sure no wires are exposed, and from there you actually have a pretty cool little gift for somebody. And this was actually something that really did spark my interest when it was shown to me. So right now this guy is live, no question about it. and then whenever we want, that guy's on. So, and like I said, you can get a shorter, you can get a shorter cord for somebody. You don't have to get a shorter cord, but I mean, you can, however long you want the length to be, you can cut it off wherever you need it to be cut off. So, this is that's our mock little presentation. So, make sure you have, one of these Romex connectors. This one, like I said, if it's one of these guys, this just had this little oddball connection, but this would just go right in and you wouldn't have any problems with it. This is just showing, so it's just, a little bit of an eyesore in the back, but we have everything grounded and everything works perfectly. So if you wanted to, obviously the person would probably want USB, and that's what was asked for from the YouTube subscriber. I would say you can just get an outlet that has the USB already built into it. So it's basically the same exact size, but has the USB already built into it. If not, and you wanted to do something else, you could get something where you could have the ports coming out of the sides and so forth. But if you just wanted to keep it simple like this, with the ports right here, you would be good to go, and that would be it. So okay, the person would say, I got 2 outlets and then 2 USB ports to use. But so there's our simple setup. I personally like the weatherproof socket, like I said, just because it is so well insulated, and it just has coming down to feed into here is very simple. So, and you have an extra, so you have basically an extra outlet here to use, So you basically have just made an external outlet, one that's not mounted anywhere. So just as if you had, a radio that has a plug in it, you've just done the same thing just with this. The parts that I use today cost me right under 10 bucks. Total was $9.81. So, and that was I already had a switch, but switches are cheap. For this particular outlet, it was like $1.36. The junction box was $2.58, and the cover was $2.04. So, or the cover was $2.58. The box was $2.04. So, you do need a Romex connector of some sort, whether it be one of these plastic ones or the ones that you have to tighten, the metal ones that you have to tighten in. So you definitely need one of them. So I have a crap load of them, but you don't have to. You really only need that one. That's the only place you're going in. Other than that, you don't need anything else. So they said, just get the one that goes like this. If it has the USB ports, you might want to stick with a GFI, and the depth that you have should be enough. And like I said, spray paint before, and I hope that this helped anybody who's looking for something kind of cool to make for somebody, maybe for the holidays or anything like that. And really, that didn't take too long at all. So the longest part would be spray painting it and making sure that the size of this socket is the size that you use the drill. Is when you connect it to the drill and drill straight through as a perfect circle. So that's just sitting flush. And like I said, don't use a Sawzall, because then you get all this kind of crap up here. But even that I could probably patch up and make it look pretty decent. So, but hope you guys enjoyed this video on making this little novelty item here, and at least showing you how to wire it and what to do. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and thank you very much to the YouTuber for showing me this item and just how anybody else could make them, because it seems as though this person was selling this for almost 70 bucks. So with everything including, besides the light bulb, I mean, you'll spend, if you want to get the USB outlets, you know, maybe up to $20 to create this. And then you're just using some wire off of something that you don't even use anymore. So, all right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, guys, and adios.